Above your head, a silent race is already underway. No crowds, no explosions, no breaking news alerts. Yet everything you rely on is already up there. Your phone signal, your GPS, your crops, your military advantage. Now, Donald Trump wants to reset the rules of space, not to participate, but to dominate. His new space policy promises speed, superiority, American control beyond Earth, the moon by 2028, a permanent outpost by 2030, nuclear power in orbit, missile defense from above. It sounds decisive. It sounds strong. It sounds inevitable. But here is the uncomfortable truth. In space, power without coordination becomes chaos. Speed without rules becomes danger. And dominance pursued alone often collapses under its own weight. If space is the backbone of modern life, this is not a technical debate. It is a civilizational one. If this matters to you, stay with me. Because before judging the plan, we must first understand the problem it is trying and failing to solve. Space policy is no longer abstract. It is no longer about distant rockets or distant dreams. It is about power, dependency, vulnerability. Today, the United States depends on thousands of satellites circling the Earth. They guide planes, move ships, plant crops, power modern warfare, remove them, and daily life begins to fracture. Trump's new space policy starts from this reality. America relies on space more than any other country. And that dependence creates fear. Fear of disruption, fear of rivals, fear of losing control. China is rising fast, not as a distant challenger, but as a near-peer competitor. And the United States is no longer alone up there. More than 90 countries now operate assets in space. Orbit is crowded, traffic is accelerating, yet here is the core problem. Space is shared, but power is pursued nationally. The new policy focuses on speed, dominance, and commercial expansion. What it barely addresses is governance, rules, coordination. And without those, the very systems America depends on become fragile. To understand how we reach this point, we need to step back. Because today's urgency is the product of choices made long before this administration. For decades, space was quiet, predictable, sparse, governed by restraint. In the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union understood one thing. If space became chaotic, everyone would lose. So rules emerged, treaties, norms, unwritten limits. Satellites watched. They did not attack. Orbits were respected. Crowding was minimal. That world is gone. Technology lowered the barrier to entry. Launch costs collapsed. Commercial actors surged forward. What once belonged to superpowers now belongs to markets. At the same time, dependence exploded. Navigation, timing, intelligence, global trade. Space quietly became infrastructure. And infrastructure, once essential, becomes strategic. China understood this early. So did others. Assets multiplied, competition intensified, but governance did not keep pace. The rules were built for scarcity. We now live in abundance. Cislunar space, Earth orbit, lunar pathways, all increasingly contested, all increasingly congested. This is the historical trap. When systems evolve faster than the rules that govern them, crises stop being hypothetical. And that brings us to the first shock that exposed just how fragile space has become. The first warning did not come from an explosion. It came from congestion. Orbit is filling up fast. Thousands of satellites now crowd paths once considered empty. Commercial launches accelerate. National systems multiply. More objects, more debris, more risk. One miscalculation can trigger a chain reaction. A collision, fragments. More collisions. This is not theory. It is physics. And yet, the new space policy pushes speed, faster launches, faster deployment, faster dominance. What it does not emphasize is coordination. No shared traffic rules, no binding safety norms, no universal enforcement. Even as American experts contribute technical solutions in international forums, Washington steps back politically. Resolutions pass without U.S. support. Rules emerge without U.S. leadership. This is the quiet crisis. Not an enemy attack, not a weapon in orbit, but a system stretched to its limits. When space becomes unreliable, everything below it feels the shock. Navigation falters, security weakens, markets shake. If this trajectory continues, the cost will not be measured in prestige. It will be measured in disruption. If this concerns you, it should, because this crisis is not accidental. It is structural, and next, we need to examine the hidden mechanism driving it. The hidden mechanism is not technology. It is incentives. The new space policy rewards speed. Deadlines, deployment, market capture. Agencies are told to move fast. Companies are told to scale fast. Competition becomes the organizing principle. Commercial space is no longer adjacent to national power. It is fused with it. Private launches replace public programs. Commercial stations replace the ISS. Market solutions replace shared governance. On paper, this looks efficient, innovative, decisive, but systems driven only by speed produce blind spots. No single actor is responsible for orbital safety. No company is rewarded for slowing down. No nation wants to be the first to restrain itself. So risk is externalized. Debris becomes someone else's problem. Congestion becomes tomorrow's issue. Stability becomes an assumption. At the same time, the policy elevates security fears. Nuclear power in space, missile defense from orbit, countering adversaries. Security logic crowds out cooperative logic. And this is the paradox. The more space becomes strategic, the less willing states are to share control. But the more crowded space becomes, the more control must be shared. This tension is not theoretical. It is already producing a second, more dangerous moment of crisis. The second shock is not about debris. It is about weapons. The new policy warns openly about nuclear threats in space, about adversaries placing weapons above the Earth, about missile defense from orbit. This changes the logic of space. Satellites are no longer just tools. They become targets. When one system is threatened, others respond. Redundancy increases. Hardening increases. Suspicion spreads. Every maneuver is misread. Every test is questioned. Every failure feels intentional. And yet, there is no shared crisis hotline in orbit. No binding limits, no agreed red lines. Security accelerates. Trust collapses. The policy speaks of deterrence, but deterrence without communication is instability. At the same time, diplomatic cooperation erodes. Technical forums move forward without US backing. Rules form anyway, just without American leadership. This is the dangerous moment when space becomes militarized, crowded, and ungoverned at the same time. In such systems, accidents look like attacks, and responses escalate before explanations arrive. This is not alarmism. It is pattern recognition. And when instability rises, the first to feel it are not governments. They are people, which brings us to the human cost. For most people, space feels distant, invisible, abstract, unreachable. But the truth is, it touches everything you rely on. Your phone's signal, your bank transfers, your GPS-guided deliveries. Even the food on your table depends on satellites. When systems fail above, life below falters. Imagine crops misplanted because GPS signals glitch, planes rerouted, markets shaken, emergencies slowed. Trump's space policy promises dominance, but dominance without safety rules puts you at risk. The push for lunar bases, the rush to nuclear power in orbit, the privatization of space infrastructure, all these moves may speed progress, but they also accelerate vulnerability. You feel the impact without seeing it. Every launch, every satellite, every policy gap echoes in your daily life. And here is the heart of the matter. Space is no longer a playground for governments. It is the infrastructure of modern life. If Americans fail to coordinate, it is your life that will experience the shock waves first. And these ripples do not stop at borders. Space is no longer just an American issue. It is global. Every satellite launched, every orbital maneuver, every policy decision echoes around the world. Allies rely on US systems. Partners coordinate with American launches. Rivals watch, calculate, and respond. Trump's new space policy signals dominance, but dominance is visible. It shifts the balance. It creates pressure. It demands a response. China and other emerging powers accelerate their own programs. National pride and security logic push them into orbit. Competition spreads. Rules remain vague. Even agreements like the Artemis Accords cover only some players. Most of the world still operates under outdated treaties. Standards for safety, traffic, and conduct are insufficient. This global misalignment is a systemic risk, not a distant possibility, but an ongoing dynamic. The US may be the leader, but leadership without cooperation is brittle. Power can trigger conflict as easily as it can ensure security. And this brings us to the future, because today's choices shape tomorrow's trajectory. The future of space is not predetermined. It depends on choices made today. We can imagine three paths. The optimistic path: the US leads responsibly, rules are agreed, cooperation flourishes, commercial innovation thrives alongside safety. The moon becomes a shared laboratory, Mars a joint ambition, and space remains a predictable environment. The moderate path: dominance is pursued aggressively. Some rules are enforced, but gaps remain. Commercial actors race, accidents happen, global tensions simmer. Progress continues, but fragility grows. The worst-case path: rivals act unilaterally. Orbital debris multiplies. Weapons in space create mistrust. Accidents escalate. Critical systems fail. Dependency turns into vulnerability. The lesson is clear. Speed alone is not enough. Dominance without collaboration is a fragile illusion. Every launch, every policy, every investment shapes which scenario unfolds. And as Americans or as global citizens, you are already part of this story. Before we close, it is time to distill the insight. The choices we make in space will define the century. Dominance is seductive. Speed is tempting. Innovation is celebrated. But without rules, without coordination, without global trust, all of it can unravel. Trump's new space policy offers vision, ambition, deadlines, lunar outposts, missile defense, commercial investment. Yet the cracks are visible. Cuts to science funding, fragmented governance, limited cooperation. If America wants true leadership, it cannot act alone. It must lead responsibly. It must set standards. It must partner with allies, even competitors, to ensure space remains a domain of progress, not chaos. You now see the stakes. The future of your infrastructure, security, and daily life rides on these decisions. So here's the call. Watch, question, engage. Because the era of space supremacy is here, and it will reward those who understand it and punish those who do not. This is not a story of tomorrow. It is happening now, and it is just beginning